Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the daily, and I want to talk to you about crate moments. What's the best way to put this? I want to talk about benchmarks with crate training. When you're crate training your dog, the questions I always get is, all right, when do I not have to use the crate and things like that? And I always tell people don't rush it, because the crate is a great tool. The crate teaches, I call it the silent teacher. It teaches the dog how to be calm, how to be relaxed. And that's the value in the crate, is the dog learns how to be calm and relaxed so that when the time comes that you're not using the crate, ideally the dog is calm and relaxed outside of the crate because he spent a lot of time understanding how to be calm and relaxed inside of the crate. And so the concepts just change over. But there's certain kind of moments that I'm looking for along the way, kind of what I would call benchmarks, I guess, that kind of tell me I'm at a stage where I can do something a little bit, I can give the dog a little bit more freedom. So the first piece of freedom I'm going to give a dog outside of the crate is when we're sleeping. Overnight, essentially. So I'm never going to let the dog be loose in the crate or be loose in the house outside of the crate when I go run an errand. The first time I'm going to do it is outside when we're sleeping. Now, the reason why is because it's just a tiny little step. Ideally, the dog's been sleeping in the crate overnight for months and months and months. And then we get to the point where the dog's not sleeping in the crate, but is not really supervised. Because no one's training while they're sleeping. You can't. Sorry, I can't. And so it's the first time that I feel comfortable allowing the dog to sleep outside of the crate, or to be outside of the crate unsupervised. Now, on a certain level, it's not like 100% unsupervised, because if I started hearing noises, I can, it might wake me up, and, if the dog's getting into the trash or doing something wrong. But generally, the first time I'll ever let a dog sleep outside of the crate, and again, these are just rules of thumb. Every dog is different, but on early end, 9 or 10 months. Now, again, I've had plenty of clients do it before that, and they're fine. But I've had way more clients do it before that, and they're not fine. So like I say, on an early end, 9 or 10 months. Where I might do it later would be, a dog that's really active and a little bit mischievous and, a little bit hyper, something like that. I might wait a little bit longer and allow a little bit more training to set in. But if I've been doing a good job with most dogs at 8 or 9, 10 months, it's kind of the rule of thumb where I'm going to say, okay, you can sleep outside of the crate. Now, when I do it, ideally I do it with the door closed or with a baby gate at the door so the dog only has access to my bedroom. Ideally, what I'm going to do is put a dog bed close to my bed, and I'm going to tell the dog to lie on the bed, and then we're going to go to sleep. And I'm going to kind of puppy-proof the room, make sure there's not stuff the dog can get into, and make sure the dog had plenty of opportunities to go to the bathroom outside. Kind of puppy-proof things and set things up for the dog's success. And if the dog does great, he gets another night. And if the dog does great, again, another night, and that's how we build it. If the dog doesn't do great, generally we go back to the crate for a little while, simply because there's no real training that you can do overnight. I mean, there's some things. You can set up elaborate scenarios where you're like, all right, well, overnight the dog chews the cords, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend I'm asleep at 12:30 in the morning, and I'm going to watch the dog and see if he's chewing the cords to my alarm clock or something like that. I don't want to do that. That's too much effort. So if it's just too early and the dog made a mistake overnight, went to the bathroom, chewed something up, well, tomorrow night we're back in the crate, not as a punishment, but simply as a tool for learning. But again, so that's going to be kind of our first initial, you're not being watched 100%, but you're not in the crate. Now, I'm usually going to do that for a few months because I want that to settle in, and I want the dog to get used to not being watched while, not being in the crate. And so after a few months, usually on the early end, when the dog is 12 months old, 13, 14 months, somewhere in there, is when I might start giving some freedom from the crate when I'm gone. Now, when I do this, I'm not really gone. I will literally do 1 or 2 minutes first, meaning, I'm going to walk towards the front door, not make a big deal, walk right out, go across, and the dog followed me the whole way, walk across the street and come back. And we're going to do a bunch of times at 1 minute. And then we're going to do a bunch of times at 5 minutes. And then we're going to do a bunch of times at 10 minutes. And then we're going to gradually build and build and build. 10 gets to 20, 20 gets to 30. Once I'm at an hour, usually I'll make bigger jumps. I can often jump from an hour to 2 hours. 2 hours to 4 hours, stuff like that. But it's got to be this process. You're not going to go from 1 minute to 8 hours in a week. You're going to go from 1 minute to 8 hours in probably 2 to 6 months if you're doing things right. Again, I don't want to hear emails from people saying, I did it faster and it worked out fine. I know it works out fine when things go faster. And I also know it also works out really, really badly when people try to go faster than that. Because again, I've been doing this for years and I've met thousands of people now. And anyways, so if you are trying to push it faster, I always tell people there's no point in pushing it faster. You're going to have this dog for 10, 12, 15 years. An extra, couple months of cautiousness, you'll forget about it. You won't even remember it. In the moment, you're like, oh, this is taking a while. But, so anyways, if I'm starting at 12 months, leaving the dog loose for a minute while I leave, it might be 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 months when I'm leaving for 6, 7, 8 hours and leaving the dog outside of the crate. Now, depending on the dog, we might even do this in little stages too. I might leave the dog in the laundry room because there's not much the dog can get into in the laundry room or the mud room, for those, when I first start getting to a half hour or an hour. Or, one of my dogs previously, he was very protective of the home, and we'd often leave him in the bedroom. That way he wasn't at the front window, trying to eat people going past the house and stuff like that. And so you might not give complete access to the entire house, or you might, depending on the dog. But like I say, for some dogs, we'll go from crate to mud room, and then put up a baby gate. Now the dog's at the kitchen, and then we open up the first floor, and then we open up the basement, or whatever. And so you can go in stages like that depending on the dog and how fast the dog needs to learn. At any point where the dog's screwing up, we need to go back a step, use the crate for a little bit longer, maybe set up some scenarios where we try to catch the dog in the act, stuff like that. But those are general rules of thumb for how to wean your dog off of needing the crate every day.